Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be telling you my 24 books of 2024. So how I'm going to be doing this is that I'm going to go from the last book, so the 24th place, and then all the way until the first place. This is going to be really hard for me because I haven't actually decided. I just picked my top 24. I haven't really decided the order yet. So I have 5 books here that are like kind of on the lower side of the scale. Okay, so I picked this one to be last because it's a thriller. It's not that memorable. I haven't really thought about it that sense, but I just remember it being so good. And that is In the Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware, which this is actually funny because last year I read 2 of her books and I actually hated them. Like, I absolutely hated them. Like, they were so bad to me. But this one was really good. It's kind of about this office group of people, this company that is going away on this ski trip for the holiday, and stuff starts happening. There's a lot of drama. There's a lot of like business schemes that are being revealed, and it's just like a lot of fun. And I didn't guess the plot twist. I thought it was so shocking. And yeah, I just really enjoyed this one, but it's obviously not as good as the other 23 books here. The 23rd book of 2024 is 11/22/63 by Stephen King. Yes, it was very emotional and honestly mentally damaging trying to get through this book because it's so long, but it was so good. Like, believe me, I know it's so long, but it was so worth it. Also, I just never really found myself being that connected with the characters, but I got so connected with them at the end. It was insane. Okay, I was crying, I was happy, I was sad, I was angry. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I just thought this book like ended perfectly. I thought it was perfect in so many ways. But this book is about the JFK assassination. He gets kind of like this mission, I guess, from this friend, I would say, to try to stop the JFK assassination. And it's just crazy. It gets way more in depth than that, and it's just absolutely amazing. And then the 22nd spot is taken by The Toll by Neil Susterman. This one actually did make it on the list. I also read Thunderhead, which is the second book of this series in the Scythe trilogy. And yeah, I don't know. It was just so much information, and it was so much fun to just follow along with our characters and also new characters. And I don't know, it was such a long book. Like, it's over 500 pages long, but it was so worth it. And it was honestly just a blast. And I don't know how to explain it to you, but Scythe is one of my favorite series ever, and you guys know this. I've talked about it so much, but this one is definitely just, it was just a perfect, like, the ending was crazy and perfect and everything I wanted it to be. And then in the 21st spot, we have The Book of Lost Names by Christine Harmel. This is a historical fiction about our main character, Ava, which she is a librarian. This book in the library that is filled with names of children at the time of World War II, and she realizes that these are all kids that have had to go away from their parents, had to go to a camp or something like that. And it was so good. The ending in this book, insane. Okay, off reading this book for so long. There was also many good quotes. I loved the writing. It was just so beautiful. Next, taking the 20th spot is Betting on You by Lynn Painter. I finally read more Lynn Painter this year. I'm so happy I did because I've read The Do-Over and Better Than the Movies last year, and I just absolutely love them both. And I finally got around reading more, and this one was so good. I think I rated it a 4.75 stars, which it's just like so good. Okay, and we're following Bailey and Charlie. At first, they did not meet in a likely scenario. They actually hated each other when they first met. And then we jump time. We have 3 years ago, we have like 2 years ago, and then 1 year ago, and then present day. And each time they meet, they are like rekindled with this emotion of like, oh yeah, I hated him, but like, oh, he seems nicer now. Like, oh, she seems nicer now. and it's a blast, and it's so much fun, and I just had a blast reading it, honestly. I don't know like my favorite Lynn Painter book just yet, but this one's definitely really high up there. Next is Gallant by V.E. Schwab. I love V.E. Schwab so much. She's one of my favorite authors, and I've only read like 3 books by her, but this one is so good. You guys heard me talk about this book so many times this year, and I just fell in love with the character, and her writing even more in this book was just so good. But we're following Olivia Pryor. She's actually an orphan. It's crazy, it's fun, it's magical, it's just such a good time, and I almost cried. I was so connected with these characters at the end. It was insane. But it's definitely like a gothic literary fiction almost. Like, I don't know how to really, like, it's a gothic fantasy, I guess I would call it. But it's just so much more than that, and it's so good. And that took 19th place. Next is Vow of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. Dance of Thieves was actually my favorite book from last year, which is the first book in this duology. This one definitely was so good, but not as good as the first book, and just not as good as some of the other books I've read this year. So it did get 18th place, but even if it is that low on the list, it's still so good, because I read 129 books this year, so if it makes it my 18th favorite book, it's gonna be good, okay? So it was so good. It was everything I wanted with the characters, like just seeing them again and being in their world. It's just, I loved how much more complicated the storyline got with the characters that we already were following. I just loved the politics that we also got more of in this book, and I fell in love with these characters over again because I read Dance of Thieves like a year ago, and then I picked this one up. So it just, I fell back in love with these characters in this series. I'm definitely going to be rereading these series at one point. The first book in a new fantasy series that I wanted to start this year. I started it, I didn't continue, but I just fell in love with these characters. I fell out of it with a little bit of the politics and the world building and stuff like that, but I think that this was really good, and I definitely think that I'm going to be continuing the series. I just don't know if I'm that invested for it to be higher up on this list. I don't know if I loved it as more as some other books. I also have very high hopes for the other books to be higher. Next is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson, my first Brando Sando book this year, and my last this year, but I'm going to be reading more of his work next year because I absolutely fell in love with his writing, his story, his character development, also his beautiful writing. I loved his writing. I loved his storytelling. I absolutely fell in love with the world, and the things that he thought of to put in this book was insane. Like the spores with the whole water thing, like it's mind-blowing to me, because in this book you follow Tress, and one day the love of her life has to go sailing out in sea for his father because they're like royalty, and she's like, oh my goodness, he's going to find a wife, like, oh, I'm gonna die. So once the king comes back without his son, and he's like, yeah, no, I dropped them off somewhere, and she's like, huh, what do you mean? So she goes and tries to find him and realizes soon that he's actually in trouble, and she needs to help him. And it's just beautiful, and I love the world, and I love the characters, and I just had a blast, honestly. And I cannot wait to read more of his work in the future because it was just so good. Heartless Hunter by Christine Carielli. This is the first book in a duology series that I'm starting, and the next book comes out in a few months, I think, and I'm really excited about that because I really did enjoy this one. Something new for me at the time. It was fun, it was fast-paced, it was a really good time, and I cannot wait for the second book in the duology. And I cannot wait because the ending of this book made me hate and love the author at the same time, and I was just so conflicted. I realized that if this book can give me that much emotion, it's obviously really good. So 16th place? Yeah, 16th place. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snake. I also read the Hunger Games series this year as well, but none of those books made it on this list for some reason. So, except this one, because I really love this one. I thought the ending of this book was crazy, and if you don't know what this book is about, it's about we're following Snow, which is the president in the Hunger Games books, but this is when he's like a teenager. And it was so good, okay? Because I think it follows like the 10th Hunger Games, or like really early. It's a really early game of the Hunger Games, which I found really interesting. And I just loved seeing like his character grow into what he is in the future books. I thought it was so much fun. And yeah, I don't know why. It was just my favorite book of the series. So yeah. Throne of Glass, the first book in the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. I like this book, okay? I really, really did. I actually love this book. I really did love it, but I like the other two books that I read this year more because I read Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, and then Assassin's Blade. And by the way, I recommend reading Assassin's Blade first, okay? Please do. But yeah, I just think that this one was my least favorite out of the three. It was what you kind of needed to be, because I read this book second after Assassin's Blade, and I feel like I already knew the world. I already knew kind of some of the characters, but like in here you really see the characters, really connect with some of them. You really connect with Selena, which is our main character, and I think it was just really needed, but also it was just so much fun. And it was just a blast, honestly, and I just cannot wait to continue the series in the new year. This stack is honestly getting kind of wobbly because we have 14 books stacked up together. Next is Cress by Marissa Meyer, which is the 4th book in the Lunar Chronicles series. And it was my favorite. Okay, if you couldn't tell, that's why I made this list. I love Marissa Meyer. I read the Renegades trilogy last year, and I read this series. I read most of the series this year. And I just fell in love with the Lunar Chronicles and the characters, but Cress and Thorn are my favorite, as well as the storyline in this book, which is amazing. And I love these characters so much, and I love them. I love them so much. If you don't know what Cinder is about, which is the first book in this series, if you don't know what the series is, there's Cinder, Scarlet, Cress, and then Winter. Those are the 4 books in this series. And the first book is a Cinderella retelling. The second one is a Red Riding Hood. And then the third one, and then this one is Rapunzel. And then the last one is Winter, which is Snow White. And I just love this one so much because my favorite princess is Rapunzel. Actually, that's a lie. Brave and then Rapunzel. But I just love it. I love it so much. I love the world, the characters. Just everything about this made this book so good. I don't know if I can keep stacking them anymore. Next is another Lynn Painter book, which is Nothing Like the Movie. I really read this. It's been out for a few months. Everything about Lynn Painter and her books, I just love so much. Follows our 2 main characters from Better Than the Movies. So much fun, and I loved being back with the characters. I love the storyline. I thought the storyline was so much fun and nothing I've really read before, which I loved. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed this one, and I'm glad I did because it just started this new obsession with Lynn Painter again, and she just announced another book that's coming out. I didn't see a release date yet, but I'm very excited about that one as well. Next is Sold on a Monday by Christina McMorris. I love this book. Like, I genuinely did. This is a historical fiction. A journalist that is working for the newspaper, and he needs to find this amazing story because he just got this big opportunity, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go around town, get some information, and it's just so good. It's just so good. The ending was a little bit weird for me. It literally didn't matter to me because it was amazing and it was just so much fun. Tears that were shed from this book is insane. And yeah, I just highly recommend this one. One of my favorite historical fictions I read this year. There is a 2 above it, but still, I loved it. Next is Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. This is the 2nd book in the series, but I read it 3rd. And yeah, I really love this one as well. Not as much as Assassin's Blade, but was really, really good. I just think that this book was so necessary because I learned so much about our characters, about the world and the magic system as well. And I'm really excited to continue these books. I just think it's gonna be so much fun. And that's why this book made it to the top 10. It made it to the 9th place, guys. Come on. Book Thief by Marcus Zuke. This book was amazing. It's told in Death's POV, which I thought was so interesting, and I've never read anything like that before. And I just fell in love with our characters so much that I cried at the end like no other. I was a crying baby at the end of this book. And yeah, I don't know, I just really love this one. I've heard so many good things about this book, and I just always knew I was gonna like it, but I was just a little bit scared that it wouldn't live up to the hype I had in my head, and it definitely did live up to that hype. I'm telling you, if you haven't read this book and you like historical fiction, please read it. It's so good. And yeah, I just fell in love with every single character. I genuinely loved it, and that's why it got 8th place. Hiding Place by Carrie Ten Boom, and the author of this book is actually the main character in the book, which I absolutely love. And yeah, I just love the reputation of Christianity. This is the book my grandfather actually wanted me to read. He thought I would really enjoy it. I thought he thought that I would really like it. But sadly, a few months ago, my grandfather did pass away. So I'm going to be reading this book every single year, and it's going to be probably in this top 20 something list every single year because it's just genuinely so amazing, and it has a special place in my heart now and will forever have because it's just amazing. And also because of my grandfather, there's a character in this book actually that reminds me a lot of him. And yeah, I really love it, and I love the characters, the story. I cried at the end again. I cry at so many historical fictions, but this one's also in World War II time, and yeah, that time period just brings tears to my eyes every time. But yeah, I did get 7th place, and yeah, I would say really read this one. It's my favorite historical fiction of the year. 6th place is Things You Save in a Fire by Catherine Strenter. One of her other books actually made it on this list as well. I read 3 of her books this year. This one was so amazing. This is one of the books that made me laugh the most this year. I just think literary fiction can make me laugh sometimes so much more than like other books can. And I just had a blast reading this. I fell in love with our characters and the world, and I just love Catherine Strenter's writing, and I'm so excited to continue reading her books. And that's why I got 6th place. Okay guys, we're in the top 5 books. Top 5. I read this book in the beginning of the year, which is The Great Alone by Christina Hanna. I fell in love with the characters, the setting, the like tension, and the drive that this book had. I fell in love with everything. Love the characters so much, as well as the setting. So cool. These were set in Alaska. I really highly recommend this book. I thought it was so much fun and so emotional at the end of this book. I could start tearing up, I swear. Oh my god. We're gonna take a slight intermission. Okay, so this is what we're working with now. Not so pretty, but it's gonna work. We're down to our last 4 books. In 4th place, we have If We Were Villains by Emma Rio. This, I didn't think was going to be so high on my list, but I actually think about this book so often, and the characters especially. I just really fell in love with the character and the setting of this book. We're in this college setting, and we're following this group of friends that all love Shakespeare, and there's so much emotional depth in this book. A lot of Shakespeare references in this book, which I didn't understand totally, but I thought definitely wanted me to read more Shakespeare because he's so famous for a reason. But yeah, I just had a blast reading this, and the ending caught me off guard. I had a blast reading this. And this is definitely for a selective amount of people, but it was just so amazing that I want to recommend it to everyone, but I know not everyone is gonna like it. So if you like Shakespeare and you like that like academic setting, I think you would really like it. Honestly, I'm just throwing the books over there now. We're to our top 3, guys. This is really exciting, okay? Can you guess it? I kind of want you guys to guess at least one of them, okay? Like, what do you think is my top book of the year? Go ahead, guess. Go ahead, guess. Number 3 is How to Walk Away by Catherine Center. Like I said, I read another one of her books this year, and this was one of them. And yeah, I just really, really enjoyed this one. I just fell in love with her characters. Her writing, again, is just stunning. And I just love the ending so much, more than I could ever express. But there's this traumatic accident with a plane, and our main character has to go to the hospital for a very long time because she's broken a lot of things. She just goes to this hospital to obviously heal her body because her body just went through a crash. But also I feel like this book, she finds herself, she finds her happiness again, which I don't know, it just was so good. A lot of beautiful messages in this book, as well as so many characters that I fell in love with, and I'm so excited to again read more of her books. I'm so excited. Now in second place, which some of you guys would probably think this would be in first, but I don't know, I think I like my first place better, guys. The second place is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I know. Read this book down here? Yeah, no. This is second place. I really love this book. The banter, the world, the characters, everything about this book. I loved the trials. It was so amazing. Believe me, it's a 5-6 star book in my head. I think we all know what this book is and what it's about and everything, so I'm not gonna bore you with that information. But if you haven't read this book yet, please do, because it's amazing. I wouldn't say that Reckless is amazing as this book, but I have faith in the third book, which this book series is a trilogy. The third book is not out yet, but there is a novella, which is called Powerful, which I also really, really loved. But yeah, I highly recommend this one if you haven't already read it, which I don't know what you're doing because this was like the most popular book this year, I swear. Drumroll please, this is gonna be my top book of 2024, and I cannot believe it because it wasn't for quite some time, and then just a few weeks ago I realized that yes, this is my favorite book of this year, and that book is The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. But I fell in love with these characters. I really, really did. I read this book first, and one character in specific that we will never see again, I will never get over, but yeah, I loved it. I think a lot of people put shade on this book because that it's a story of 5 novellas, and they're just like, oh well, that's just kind of boring, like, because this story is a compilation of 5 short stories, and it's just like, okay, what's so good about that? It's amazing. We have one of my favorite characters in this book, and I also fell in love with the world, the characters in this book, and I love it so much. I genuinely do. So there are 5 short stories in this book. Every single one of them I love for different reasons. I think that each one of these short stories has such an amazing view. I really loved our characters, and this book was genuinely just my favorite book of the year, and I'm so happy about it because it was so good, and I want everyone to start reading this series with this book. Please do, because guess what? It just makes more sense. This is literally a prequel. Hello? Like, so yeah, please read this. If you haven't started this series yet, and if you haven't read this book yet or this series yet, please do, and please start with this book because that's my request, as it being my first book of the year. Also, more books keep falling on me, but I think that's a sign to end this video. I hope you guys like this video. This is gonna be my first video of January, my first video of 2025. Happy New Year, guys. I really hope that this video gives you some recommendations that you think you would like, and yeah, I honestly recommend every single one of these, obviously, because they're in my top 24 books in 2024, so please comment down some videos that you want to see from me in the new year. I just really am excited about this year. I'm excited to where this channel grows. Love you guys so much. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!